A soldier assaults two toddlers. A porn empire profits from the footage. And a president, he bans the entire adult industry from his nation overnight. This isn't a scandal, it's a revolution. What Captain Traore just did in Burkina Faso is shaking the digital world to its core, and trust me, you've never seen leadership like this before. Stay with me, because this is bigger than politics. Not long ago, the world was shaken by a horrifying revelation out of Burkina Faso. Two innocent young girls, just 3 and 5 years old, were subjected to unspeakable abuse. Even more appalling, the act was recorded and uploaded to none other than Pornhub, one of the world's most visited adult websites. The response was immediate and fierce. Global outrage erupted. Social media platforms lit up with calls for accountability. In a rare act of concession, Pornhub removed millions of videos from its library, a sweeping move triggered by the growing backlash. But in the midst of that storm, something else equally seismic was unfolding. Burkina Faso's president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, quietly made a decision that would send ripples far beyond the borders of his country. Reports surfaced that he had turned down a significant offer from Saudi Arabia, a move that many other African governments wouldn't even consider. It wasn't just a rejection, it was a statement. So, what happens when a nation draws a hard, unapologetic line between digital chaos and cultural preservation? Under Captain Traoré's fearless leadership, Burkina Faso has just dropped a digital bombshell, a nationwide ban on all pornographic websites. Yes, you heard that right. No more hidden access, no blurred lines, no exceptions. This isn't a routine crackdown, this is a full-on reset of the country's digital moral compass. My name is Nal Fur, and welcome to the African Diaspora News channel, where we explore the stories reshaping our world, one bold headline at a time. Here's what's happening. President Traoré has made it official. Internet service providers across Burkina Faso have begun implementing a block on all adult content platforms. The government states the reason clearly: this is about protecting youth, preserving national values, and pushing back against harmful influences that come disguised as entertainment. Critics call it censorship, but supporters, they're calling it revolutionary. To them, it's a clear stand for dignity, discipline, and identity, in a time when the internet has become a breeding ground for moral erosion. At its core, this isn't just a war against explicit content, it's a battle for the soul of a nation. In an era where screens are raising children and algorithms exploit every human impulse, Burkina Faso has chosen to draw a bold red line. Under Captain Traoré's directive, the country is saying no to digital colonization, to cultural erosion, and to industries built on trauma and exploitation. Some in the West may scoff, defending so-called freedom of expression. But in Burkina Faso, freedom is being redefined not as a license for excess, but as the right to grow up in a society that protects its most vulnerable. Captain Traoré didn't sugarcoat it. He called this move a cleanse, a digital detox to reclaim what matters. His administration moved swiftly, empowering the Ministry of Digital Transition to enforce strict firewall protocols. And perhaps, the most telling part, the people are with him. In the streets of Ouagadougou, you won't find protests over the blackout of adult content. Instead, you'll hear applause relief even at what many call a return to dignity. We're living in a time where porn addiction is no longer a taboo, it's a clinically recognized crisis, where children can access graphic material in seconds, where families are silently crumbling under the weight of normalized dysfunction. So we must ask, is this really suppression? Or is it leadership? Once again, Captain Ibrahim Traoré is proving he's not afraid to stand tall where others cave. While many leaders bow to the pressures of tech giants and corporate profit, he's drawing a line in the digital sand, and the world is watching. This move has sparked a firestorm of debate online. But love it or hate it, one thing is clear. Burkina Faso isn't just cleaning up its internet, it's reclaiming its future. I get a tan, to be honest. I admire it. Let's stop pretending we don't see it. We live in an era where explicit content is only a tap away. No firewall, no filter, just raw access. And while adults can make their own choices, our children, they're still discovering what love means, what boundaries are, and how to respect themselves and others. This isn't just about discomfort, it's about damage. Psychological studies have made it painfully clear. Early exposure to porn disrupts concentration, erodes emotional resilience, and warps how young people connect with others in real life. And now, we're watching those impacts unfold in real time: confused teens, anxious young adults, and relationships that crumble before they begin. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The West has a pornography problem, and even worse, it's in denial. Adult content platforms generate billions every year, yet few lawmakers dare to question the cost. The mental toll on the next generation, the distorted expectations, the commodification of intimacy, mostly ignored, because behind the rhetoric of freedom of expression hides a market too profitable to challenge. But not everyone is willing to play along. Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso has drawn a line that Silicon Valley can't erase. He's not taking cues from digital lobbyists. He doesn't answer to data-driven corporations that profit from pleasure. He answers to his people, and that's what makes this moment historic. While Western governments are tangled in profit motives and political caution, Burkina Faso is standing for something deeper: the spiritual and psychological health of its citizens. This ban on adult content, it isn't a war on pleasure, it's a shield against exploitation. It's a refusal to normalize the trauma, objectification, and addiction that many of these platforms promote. It's about rejecting industries that quietly host revenge porn, abuse, and consentless acts disguised as fantasy. The Traoré administration has made its position crystal clear. If it doesn't serve the nation's moral or emotional well-being, it has no place here. Predictably, Western media has pounced, branding the move authoritarian or draconian. But this is the same media that routinely ignores the mental health crisis linked to pornography, skyrocketing anxiety, depression, even erectile dysfunction in men as young as 20, while others write think pieces. Burkina Faso is writing a new chapter. Traoré is proving that sovereignty isn't just about borders, it's about boundaries, and moral boundaries matter. If the West won't take out its trash, that's its choice. But the rest of the world is watching, and some are starting to admire the cleanliness of Burkina Faso's house. Let's not forget what sparked this broader shift. Not long ago, Pornhub, one of the most visited pornographic sites globally, was forced to delete millions of videos. Why? A bombshell investigation uncovered that some videos appeared to show, and in horrifying cases, actually did show, acts of child abuse. Much of this content came from anonymous, unverified users, people who were never held accountable for years. Activists had sounded the alarm about this. From non-consensual uploads to revenge porn, the platform was riddled with ethical landmines. Public outrage eventually reached a breaking point. And under immense pressure, the company deleted nearly 10 million videos in one sweep. The message was clear: when enough voices rise, even the giants tremble. Now, Burkina Faso is taking that same energy and turning it into policy. Why now? Because over 60% of Burkina Faso's population is under the age of 25. These are the builders of tomorrow. Captain Traoré understands that protecting their mental and emotional well-being isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. By shutting off access to adult content sites, the government is doing what psychologists and child safety experts across the globe have begged leaders to do: build safer digital environments for children. Why? Because the average age of first exposure to pornography is now between 9 and 11 years old. Let that sink in. What happens to a mind that young when it's introduced to graphic, adult material? It becomes desensitized. It learns to associate connection with performance. It starts a cycle of shame, secrecy, and compulsion. In line with Captain Ibrahim Traoré's vision, every SAMU service from dispatch to treatment is completely free of charge. This is more than policy. It's a bold statement. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and no Burk should die waiting for help. Before Traoré's road revolution, traveling to a hospital in rural Burkina Faso could mean a harrowing journey over rocky trails or muddy paths. For pregnant women, sick children, or accident victims, it was a race against time, often lost. But that gamble is fading fast. Thanks to new, smooth, weather-resistant roads, travel from remote areas like Bobo-Dioulasso to district hospitals has been drastically reduced. Ambulances that once stalled in flooded roads or collapsed bridges now reach patients in record time. Health outreach programs, vaccine trucks, blood donation vans, and mobile testing units can now venture deep into areas once cut off by geography. Traoré's team didn't just build roads for cars, they built corridors for survival. Collaborating with healthcare workers, they mapped out regions most in need and prioritized routes accordingly. What emerged is not just infrastructure, it's a national circulatory system, quietly pumping medical access into every corner of the country. Since this effort began, some clinics have reported a 60% increase in patient visits, and maternal mortality in road-linked regions has dropped by 40%. In towns like Zorgo, people no longer wait for the dry season to seek care, they simply go. These aren't just roads, they're lifelines, and Traoré knew it. In the past, traveling from a rural village to a city in Burkina Faso felt like leaping across centuries. Ox carts were often the only mode of transport, and isolation was the norm. That's changed. Under Traoré's infrastructure plan, once forgotten, villages are now only 45 minutes away from bustling markets, not 5 grueling hours. Farmers who once sold their crops at a loss to middlemen now drive their goods straight to urban centers. Artisans from potters to leather workers are no longer boxed into their villages. They now participate in national and even regional commerce. These new roads are more than just transit corridors, they're economic pipelines. Rest stops double as pop-up markets, while bus terminals have been strategically built near cooperative warehouses. Mobile banks are following these routes too, bringing financial services like microloans and mobile wallets to areas that didn't even have electricity a year ago. But it's not just economic empowerment. It's cultural rebirth. Festivals, weddings, and student exchange programs are flourishing. Ethnic groups that rarely crossed paths are now sharing ideas, goods, and partnerships. What was once a fragmented land is now slowly knitting itself together, one highway at a time. Critics, who once brushed Traore off as just another soldier, now face a different truth. This is strategic nation-building at its core. There was a time, not long ago, when even the announcement of a 5,000-kilometer road plan was met with skepticism. Many assumed it meant clearing a few bushes in the Sahel and calling it progress. Dust roads, empty promises, same old story. But Captain Ibrahim Traore had a different blueprint. He wasn't aiming for minimal gains. He was chasing a comprehensive transformation. What he's executing isn't just construction, it's a challenge to every complacent and corrupt leadership model across the continent. He's not coming for people physically, he's coming for them intellectually, exposing decades of excuses through relentless results, and the impact is rippling. Where aid agencies hesitated, where foreign contractors overpromised and under-delivered, Traore rolled up his sleeves and got to work, blending innovation with sovereignty, technology with tradition, and policy with purpose. From digitized emergency services to flood-proof roads, from plastic-turned pavement to nationwide healthcare access, what's happening in Burkina Faso isn't just development. It's a declaration that a nation, long overlooked and underfunded, is now shaping its own destiny with speed, skill, and soul. Under Traore, Burkina Faso isn't asking to be saved. It's showing the world how to build. What began as an infrastructure project has now blossomed into a national renaissance, a powerful statement of what happens when a country stops waiting and starts building from within. In Burkina Faso, a quiet revolution is reshaping the nation, mile by mile. Under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traore, roads have become more than just a means of transportation. They're tools of liberation, platforms for economic growth, and symbols of true independence. And perhaps the most striking part of it all, not a single foreign contractor was involved. From the drawing board to the final brick, every aspect, planning, financing, engineering, was managed by Burkinabe hands. This is a domestically driven success story, crafted without the usual dependency on multinational firms or imported consultants. What outsiders once mocked as implausible has now stunned observers with its sheer efficiency and durability. But this isn't about short-term spectacle. Traore's strategy is built to outlive politics. Roads are tested with the same rigor. As medical devices, drainage systems are integrated before a single wheel touches the road. Elevated designs protect against seasonal flooding, and robust shoulders prevent erosion. These are not vanity projects, they're engineered for real resilience. Each zone comes with its own local maintenance brigade, trained and equipped with digital tools to report damages in real time. Weekly inspections keep the network alive and accountable. A national audit board oversees road quality and publicly flags any signs of negligence or wear. It's a level of transparency rarely seen on the continent, and it's earning praise from organizations like the African Development Bank and independent watchdogs alike. What does all this mean on the ground? Fewer potholes, fewer breakdowns, less need for costly repairs. Small traders now travel confidently, knowing their routes are safe and consistent. For Traore, this isn't the finish line, it's just the foundation. His team is already developing plans to export the model across the Sahel, positioning Burkina Faso as a mentor nation in infrastructure innovation. This wave of transformation isn't limited to logistics. The government has also introduced rapid health intervention brigades, mobile emergency response teams that are now able to reach people in minutes, not hours. These brigades represent a crucial link in Burkina Faso's healthcare system, filling the long-standing gap in pre-hospital care. But their success hinges not just on ambulances or medical kits. It depends on you, the citizen. Community support, civic responsibility, and national pride are essential ingredients. The government has laid the groundwork, but the public must help sustain it. Before this initiative, delays in reaching clinics cost lives, especially in rural zones. Today, smooth roads connect remote villages to care, making previously unreachable patients accessible. Health programs from malaria testing to mobile blood drives can now operate deep in the countryside. It's no exaggeration to say, these roads are saving lives. As the saying now goes in Burkina Faso, but not on Captain Ibrahim Traore's watch. In fact, the president of Burkina Faso is now in discussions with leaders from Mali, Guinea, and Chad, talks that may soon give rise to a regional digital firewall, built not to block curiosity, but to protect cultural integrity, mental health, and the spiritual well-being of millions. What we're witnessing isn't censorship, it's digital liberation in the making. While Silicon Valley applauds itself for innovation, Traore asks, innovation for what? To erode Earth, to monetize addiction, to normalize exploitation. Burkina Faso's stance is beginning to wake up a continent. Young Africans are paying attention. They're not just scrolling, they're inspired. And other governments, they're listening. Once again, Traore isn't just governing. He's pioneering. He's telling the world, we will not let your platforms define our people. Just as Africa has begun reclaiming its resources, reshaping its economies, and retelling its stories, now it's reclaiming its digital space too. And what about the critics? They argue that banning adult content sites will hurt the economy. But let's break that myth apart. What kind of economy are we defending here? The adult content industry is a multi-billion-dollar machine that thrives on exploitation, pays content creators next to nothing, and profits handsomely off the backs of the vulnerable. That's not an economy worth saving. Burkina Faso isn't losing money. It's saving minds and futures. Captain Traore's government is directing online activity toward purpose. Educational platforms, agriculture tech, e-commerce, digital literacy programs, these are the engines of real economic growth. And let's not forget the hidden cost of the adult content industry: lost productivity, strained relationships, untreated mental health issues, rising cases of addiction and depression, all of it quietly draining national resources while leaving emotional wreckage in its path. But with this ban, something remarkable is happening. New businesses are blooming. Content creators are shifting to meaningful work: documentaries, music, cultural storytelling, skill-building tutorials. Internet cafes, once silent dens of isolation, are now buzzing with energy. Job training, remote work, students researching, elders sharing knowledge. Even telecom companies are thriving, now that their networks aren't overloaded with high-volume streaming of harmful content. This isn't economic collapse, it's economic evolution. Traore's message to the world is clear. Real leadership doesn't mean bowing to pressure from tech giants or global media. It means standing firm for your people, even when it's not easiest, especially when it's not popular. This decision wasn't for headlines. It was for healing. And the results? A safer, stronger, more connected Burkina Faso. A country where children can grow up without fear, where relationships are mending, and where dignity is making a comeback. That's not authoritarianism, that's accountability. But while the country is reimagining its digital future, it's also confronting the painful legacy of foreign presence. Recently, a French soldier was charged in Paris for sexually abusing two young girls aged just 3 and 5 in Burkina Faso. He was also accused of filming the abuse. And yet, despite the crimes occurring on Burkina soil, the soldier was extradited and tried in France. The father of one of the girls voiced what many felt: rage and betrayal. "We have laws, we have courts. Why wasn't he judged here?" he asked. This is an insult not just to me, but to justice itself. It's not just a legal failure, it's a moral one. But once again, Traore stood firm. By confronting both local and global injustices, he's forcing the world to look in the mirror. Not everyone likes what they see. Some leaders mock, others remain silent, but many are taking notes. As the West wrestles with the growing epidemic of loneliness, anxiety, and fractured human connection, Burkina Faso is charting a different course. A course where the internet isn't a weapon of destruction, but a tool for rebirth. Where policies aren't just about profit, they reflect values. Where leaders don't just follow, they lead. And that's the bigger story. Traore didn't just unplug an industry, he reignited something deeper, a national spirit that's now spreading beyond borders. Whether you support the ban or not, there's no denying it. This isn't just politics. It's a new playbook for digital sovereignty. In the 21st century, some say it's a blow to free expression. Others call it long overdue moral restoration. So what does it mean for the rest of Africa? Will it spark a domino effect across the continent or stir rebellion from digital natives demanding unfiltered access? That's the tension. And as Burkina Faso walks this controversial but visionary path, the world watches, some with skepticism, others with admiration. But either way, everyone is watching, because maybe, just maybe, the most powerful act of modern leadership isn't building platforms to exploit attention, but dismantling systems that damage humanity. If you're moved by bold decisions like this, hit that like button. If you're ready for real stories that go beyond headlines, this is more than news, it's a movement. And we'll see you in the next chapter.